Uh, it probably changes in different situations. I think sometimes, usually I'll have a general picture of what I'm trying to do. Um, but then the way it comes exactly is, it's, I'm just seeing how it goes really. I mean, I don't like being too, I mean, for instance, I used to map things out on paintings a lot, in pencil or, charcoal or something. I mean, I still do that depending on what I'm trying to do, but I do that a lot less now. I'm a lot more freer in my work these days, I think. But it depends on the nature of what I'm trying to do as well. I mean, if it's something that requires more planning, then I would try and plan it. But usually, I mean, because what I've been doing mainly is the names of God, the names of Allah from the Quran. I am trying to connect the meanings to what I'm painting. So, there's always a connection, or maybe many connections on many levels. I mean, the better paintings in terms of the message are the ones that are really bringing out so many layers of meaning in different elements. I mean, what I mean, one of the styles in which I paint in, what I call Islamic alchemical symbolism, it kind of dates back to the medieval alchemy, which obviously is a word of Islamic Arabic origin anyway, but which points to these sort of strange occultic type pictures that you would see. I mean, you see them in occult books and things like this, but I mean, they would be images of strange things concocted together, and they were highly symbolic, every element in them symbolizing something, either about this life, the nature of this life, or the nature of man's search for truth or transformation, or his connection with the next life, all of this type of thing. And they're really highly symbolic pictures where they're very allegorical. And what I wanted to do was to have an Islamic version of this, where you will have paintings where the objects in the painting are not really in a natural context, but they're just brought together as symbols. So here, you're aiming for every single element in the painting to be representing some deep spiritual meaning. Whereas other paintings, if we're talking about Islamic expressionism, symbolic Islamic expressionism, you're talking about creating an exaggerated or unrealistic image of something that does occur normally in the real world. So it would just be a totally normal picture in a sense, where everything is recognized, but the things are exaggerated, so that maybe the emotional impact is even more impressed on them of what you're trying to convey. And so maybe the image as a whole is sending a message rather than the specific elements which are maybe less important, rather than the overall expression. And when we're talking about symbolic impressionism, we're talking about creating a slightly more realistic painting, a slightly more realistic picture, where what comes out is I mean, not my impressionism, my symbolic impressionism does not, people will not recognize it as impressionism, because it doesn't go back to like the French style of impressionism. Because by my impressionism, I don't mean that. I mean something else. I mean a step closer to reality from expressionism, without such exaggeration of colours and forms and perspective and things like that. It's closer to reality. It's an impression of reality, but not in the way that impressionism is understood in art circles and in the history of the French Impressionist movement. I don't mean this. Oh yeah, there's quite a few, because of the heavy symbolism we find in the Quran of certain things, about light, about the moon, the sun, trees. I don't know whether I said mountains, water, rivers, oceans. All of this is in the Quran and in the Ahadith literature a lot. symbolic of many things, and so that these are very much in my paintings because they have many layers of meaning, and also they're beautiful things in themselves. Of course, I love trees, I love the moon, the sun, I love the sky. The sky is like, for me, it's like a million paintings a day. When you look up, you see the sky is so beautiful, and every different, every position of the sun, it's changing. I even like what people don't like. If I see a grey sky, I love it. If I see the rain, I love it. All of these things. So these are in my paintings quite a lot. I mean, really, I could put together an exhibition of just these things. Even though my intent was not to do that, I could say, paintings of the moon, or paintings of trees, paintings of water, because I've done so many of them. And the amazing thing is, for instance, if we take something like water, it's always different. I think in every single painting, water has been different that I've done. Not necessarily intentionally, so just that's the way it's happened. And so, the technique has always been different, the style and the end result has always been different. But that's just looking at it from that angle. But water is, of course, very important because it represents purity. It represents the basis of life. It represents blessings. These things have been mentioned throughout the Quran, so that they are representing these things. And power as well, of course, as the ocean is a very powerful thing. Well, like I said, I have a range of styles. I don't just paint in one style, but I have, depends how you classify them, I suppose. But I've worked out to have maybe, about 4 or 5 main styles, maybe a few more. I'd like to think that I'm trying to put a lot of thought into the meaning of what I'm doing, rather than just trying to paint a pretty picture. I mean, I like pretty pictures, don't get me wrong, but I would like to make people understand that there's a much bigger message, a deeper message, a longer lasting message in some of these things. It's not just, someone might paint something very beautiful, but if someone looks at that and the main thing they get from it, it's very beautiful, okay, that's nice, but it shows that God has given people ability, and it shows that beauty is one of the things created for us, but it's, we can say a lot more than this through art. And so if people are thinking about what I'm wanting them to think about, or even if they're thinking about anything that's actually productive through looking at my art, and they're stopping for a minute, stepping out of the downward spiral in society, if they're stepping out of the escapism, if they're taking a break from that and they're trying to connect with deeper things within themselves and in the universe, if they're trying to, if they're getting some monotheistic image, if they're getting some feeling of unity, if they're getting some feeling of Tawheed, if they're getting some feeling of, well, we are here for something more important, if they can have this spark of electricity within themselves by looking at what I'm doing, then this is fantastic. I mean, if one person was to think deeper and change their life by studying one of the paintings, or because what I do as well, I write commentaries on my paintings, not to restrict the meaning, but to open up the channels for people to think about what they're looking at in a deeper way, or to see some of the intent of the artist. Then hopefully they'll see there's a lot to the world, and there's a lot to what comes into our eyes and connects with our heart and our mind in different ways. Yeah, I've been influenced by quite a lot of them. One of the styles that I paint in, actually what I've painted in most so far, the most paintings that I've done have been in the style of abstract expressionism. And in reality, it's not just abstract expressionism, but I call it symbolic abstract expressionism. This is my own genre, because what I'm doing is I'm taking the form of like the bunch of American artists like like Jackson Pollock, like Mark Rothko. They created quite an impacting emotive style where there were no objects conveyed. I mean, when we look at the paintings of Pollock, you know, paint splashed here and there, and the colour fields created by Mark Rothko. I mean, when you're looking at some of these paintings, especially some of those ones created by Rothko, you feel like there's something happening when you're looking at them, and that's because I suppose they connect to some, you know, basic feelings and basic imagery that is within us. I mean, a bit like, I suppose, maybe when someone goes on Hajj and they visit the Kaaba, the simplicity of the image, it brings out something. It connects with maybe something, you know, deep, going back to the unseen before this life for us. I'm not saying Rothko paintings do that, but I'm saying that there's a type of simplistic imagery that enables the mind to go somewhere else. So anyway, that they influenced me because I started to read a little bit of what they were trying to do and some of the objectives in their art, and I thought, you know, Islam. In Islam, we don't have to be painting an object. We don't have to be painting a scene, but you can be painting an action. You can be painting a feeling. You can be painting, you know, even a pattern, and it can represent something. It can represent various emotions, and it can connect with the words. If you're painting words as well, it can connect with those. And so this is, you know, something that I've been doing.